I'm Tobbe, or Torbjörn Gyllebring. I'm based in Stockholm, Sweden, and I'm 42 years of age. My best backyard performance is 57 loops at the Satellite World Championship in October last year. So what brought me into the backyard was that way back in 2017 or 2018, I got an invitation for the first, I thought, backyard in Sweden. And the organizers at that time, they wanted to pull together people from long distance walking, ultra running, orienteering, and see sort of who could really go the furthest. So that's sort of what my first encounter with it. And then I heard about you on Sten's endeavors. And actually, what made me really try to get to bigs and really sort of give it a good shot was the introduction of the golden tickets and my realization that I thought that I wouldn't be able to actually qualify for Spartathlon. So I went, I'm going to Tennessee instead. What I enjoyed the most about the backyard is the camaraderie, that this is an adventure we do together. I love the community aspect of the thing. I love how the backyard has become this breeding ground of ultra runners. It's how it actually helps everyone find something. I love what the backyard has given me in terms of self-development and finding my limits. So all of that, I love the adventure, first and foremost. The hardest part is continuing to believe you can go along and go further. That's the hardest thing, I think. Just keeping and not getting ahead of yourself. Remembering that the race is happening here and now. The only loop you can run is this loop, but you need to run this loop the best you can in order to be in the best position you can to run the next loop. But that's all there is. And just staying present, I think, is the hard thing. So once sort of, because it starts dragging on, it's really easy to start thinking what will happen many loops from now. But that's when you lose it. That's when it starts slipping away, is when your attention starts slipping away from the present. I tend to say that I'm not a particularly good runner because I'm not, but I'm very, very bad at giving up. And I think that the personal qualities that mesh well with the backyard for me is that I don't get bored. I find something in every moment to like and enjoy about it. I'm persistent, and I'm good at pacing myself. And I think those are the things that goes very, very well with the backyard. Is sort of I have that innate capability to keep on keeping on, sort of just putting that one step ahead of the one foot ahead of the other, and then just keep on going. And that, I think, is my greatest strength in the backyard. There's so many things that makes the Bigs course so special. First and foremost, we of course have that it's actually not one loop. It's the two loop format. The day loop will beat you up unless you're careful. If you get ahead of yourself on that one, since it has I think 150 vertical meters. So what's that? So almost 450 feet of elevation. It's actually rough. It's really tough. If you're used to just running on these pancake courses, that actually is going to start taking a toll on you. And we saw that in 2019 when I visited the last time, that runners that were used to the flat loops, they struggled, and you need to make it into the night, and that can be such a stressful and anxiety-inducing feeling that you need to make it to the night. And then you're, well, it's the night, yes, but that's when you can rest. That's when you get out on the, well, not exactly open highway, but the closest thing to an open highway they got in Bell Buckle, at least. And you need to sort of get there in good shape so you can sort of recharge during the night. But then it's just the darkness and you need to do that, and then you're back just getting beat up by the day course. It's a tough race. It's a tough course. I think that training for the backyard is one of these things that you just need to get a lot of volume. You need to get strong. So for me, it has been building a much stronger base than I had the previous time. I'm a stronger runner today than I was 2019 when I last visited Bigs, and then I use the same training schedule as I use for the other discipline that I'm focusing on currently, which is 24 hours. So it's just a lot of volume in that really easy zone 2, coupled with a fair amount of strength training in order to build durability. And that's it's very, very monotonous. I run the same loop that is approximately 2 backyard loops almost every day. I think that it's super important to arrive with a plan and with a strategy. And to me, it is. I usually tend to run the backyards where I spend the first 8 hours, 8 to 12 hours, just finding my groove, finding my route through sort of the course, knowing what are the checkpoints, what are my times. I have sort of a target time, and for me that's 47 minutes plus minus 2 roughly. That's where I want to have my loops, because that gives me just enough time in the transitions to sort of do everything I need to do, get off my feet, get a bit of rest. So what's going to be tricky, of course, during bigs is I need to develop 2 strategies and 2 set of timings. But roughly it's hitting that number and probably being slightly slower on the day loop, and then use the night loop in order to get some additional rest. I'm excited. Most of all, I'm super grateful to get the opportunity again. It's not going to be, it wasn't easy this time, but it's never going to be this easy to get back again. So I better give it my best shot. It will be wonderful to meet all the other backyarders, the best in the world. We have so many great personalities and great people coming. And it's just going to be this celebration of pain and suffering and camaraderie and happiness and joy and excitement. It will be a family that sort of just grows up for these days. And then will sort of, you start to lose your close relatives one by one, and it's going to be painful and sad. But just being in that bubble, being with my people, I'm longing for it. I've been waiting for this for a very, very long time, and I'm just super excited to be back. I fairly early on said that 100 hours would happen, and it would happen sooner than we thought. And it did happen way sooner than I think most people thought. I don't see it as an impossibility that we pass 144 hours at some point. And then the question is, what happens? What happens when we pass 6 days? Because at that point, that's another sort of race. then all of a sudden, the backyard would be a strategy, not a race. And I think it's I think it's going to happen, because I don't think the constraints are as hard as people think they are. I think that there's some people already alive and doing backyards that can do that. The question is when they find the right course to do it and when they have that day. Because, of course, the main determinant of if we get there isn't, I don't think it's the physiological capacity. I think people have that. But it's this horrendous combination of the Hunger Games and Russian roulette that this game is. That every loop is a new chance for something to go horrendously wrong. And then it's over. So you need to really have luck on your side too.